US President Donald Trump has said that he had no knowledge that Washington imports chemicals and fertilizers from Russia. Trump's statement came after India said that the U.S. continues to import from Russia uranium, hexafluoride for its nuclear industry, fertilizers, as well as chemicals. Meanwhile, Indian-American Republican leader Nikki Haley has said the U.S. should not ruin its relationship with a strong ally like India and give a pass to China.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
India says that the U.S. imports Russian uranium, chemicals, fertilizers, while criticizing their energy imports. Your response to that, sir?
I don't know anything about it. I'd have to check, but we'll get back to you on that.
Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has turned down his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump's offer to call him anytime to discuss tariffs, saying Rio de Janeiro would instead use all available resources, including the World Trade Organization, or WTO, to defend its interests. Now, bilateral tensions between Washington and Rio de Janeiro have recently escalated following the U.S. decision to slap a 50% tariff on Brazil. The Brazilian leader said he would not call Trump to discuss tariffs because the U.S. leader, and I quote, does not want to talk, but added, and I also quote, I will call Xi Jinping, I will call Prime Minister Modi, I won't call Putin because he can't travel now, but I will call many presidents.
Eu não vou ligar para o Trump para conversar não, porque ele não quer falar. Mas pode ficar certo, Marina. Eu vou ligar para o Trump para convidá-lo para vir para a COP, porque eu quero saber o que ele pensa da questão climática. Vou ter a gentileza de ligar. Vou ligar para ele, vou ligar para o Xi Jinping, vou ligar para o primeiro-ministro Modi, vou ligar. Eu não vou ligar para o Putin, porque o Putin não está podendo viajar. Mas vou ligar para muitos presidentes. Cara, vem aqui.
We're going live to Vishal now. Vishal, the floor is yours.
So this is just another one of the biggest leaders in the global south calling out Trump on the international stage. He's clearly saying that instead of speaking with President Trump, Lula will instead prefer speaking with Prime Minister Modi or President Putin, or it could be Chinese President Xi Jinping that he could speak with. So this comes immediately in the aftermath of Trump asking Lula to speak to solve the problem of tariffs that both the countries have been facing, because Brazil faces one of the highest tariffs in the world at 50%. So Trump wants to speak with Lula on that matter, but he, on the other hand, Lula on the other hand has clearly rebuffed Trump and said that he would instead speak with PM Modi. So it clearly shows that the global south is uniting behind India and also calling out Trump, because he's been ramping up his comments on India and saying, falsely claiming that India has been promoting a lot of the conflicts in the world through its businesses with Russia. So all of that has been exposed on the international stage by many of the global south leaders.
Thanks for that, Vishal. As we can tell, trade talks are high in several countries, not just India. Let's move on to our next story. U.S. President Donald Trump has said that tariffs on pharmaceutical imports could reach 250%. This is the steepest rate he has proposed for this sector. Trump, who in July threatened 200% duties, wants to motivate drug companies to move operations to the U.S. Several industry giants like Johnson & Johnson have announced U.S. investment plans this year in a bid to build goodwill. But the complexity of supply chains means the company's moves are unlikely to reduce U.S. reliance on foreign sources. This is as per reports. Now, Trump's latest threat comes as a major drug firms report earnings this week. Pfizer raised its profit outlook on Tuesday despite looming tariffs, with its CEO hopeful that the duties will start out small. A medical transport plane crashed and caught fire Tuesday on the Navajo Nation in northern Arizona, killing 4 people. This is according to the tribe, who said this in a statement. The crash involving the CSI Aviation Company from Albuquerque, New Mexico, occurred near the airport in Chinle, about 300 miles. That's just over 480 kilometers northeast of Phoenix. Those on board were medical personnel who were on their way to a hospital to pick up a patient. The Beechcraft 300 crashed in the early afternoon while landing at the airport. This is according to the Federal Aviation Administration officials, who said this in an email. Hundreds of people gathered in New York to protest against Israel's war on Gaza and demand that the Trump administration put pressure on Benjamin Netanyahu to allow more humanitarian aid into Gaza. The protest, organized by If Not Now, a Jewish American anti-occupation group, began at Columbus Circle and ended outside the Trump International Hotel, where several people were arrested for blocking the road. Palestinian officials have said 175 people have died from hunger in Gaza since the beginning of the war, 93 of them children. More than 40 people protesting the war and worsening humanitarian crises in Gaza were arrested outside the Trump International Hotel in New York City on Monday evening. Let's listen in on the reactions coming in from New York. President Donald Trump said Tuesday that an Israeli reoccupation of Gaza, as Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is considering, would be up to Israel. Asked by reporters at an unrelated bill signing whether he supports the idea of Israel occupying all of Gaza, Trump said he wasn't aware of the suggestion, but that it's going to be pretty much up to Israel. An Israeli reoccupation of Gaza would draw fierce opposition internationally and within Israel and would mark a stunning escalation of the nearly 22-month war in the territory that has already been largely destroyed and where experts say famine is also unfolding on a large scale.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would you support Israel reoccupying all of Gaza, as has been suggested by some Israeli officials?
Well, I don't know what the suggestion is. I know that we are there now trying to get people fed. As you know, $60 million was given by the United States fairly recently to supply food and a lot of food, frankly, for the people of Gaza that are obviously not doing too well with the food. And I know Israel's going to help us with that in terms of distribution and also money. We also have the Arab states are going to help us with that in terms of the money and possibly distribution. So that's what I'm focused on. As far as the rest of it, I really can't say. That's going to be pretty much up to Israel. Yeah, please.
Amid stiffening ties between U.S. and India over Russian oil imports, National Security Advisor Ajit Doval is in Moscow for a visit aimed at strengthening ties between Russia and India. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar is also expected to follow up later in the month. Although the visit had been scheduled in advance, it now has renewed urgency because of U.S. President Donald Trump's comments regarding India's relationship with Russia. Please note that on Tuesday, Russia said sovereign countries have the right to select their own partners in trade and economic cooperation based on their interests. We have Ghazali live on this. Ghazali?
Yeah, so India is also waiting for the outcome of the meeting between Steve Witkoff, the US envoy to Russia, who will be meeting with Mr. Putin. He has arrived there just a couple of hours ago. And the deadline which US has set for Russia to wind up on ceasefire talks also falls on Friday. So before that, this talk between US envoy Mr. Steve Witkoff and Putin is very important, because that will only sort of decide the outcome of tariff threat which Trump is issuing for India as well. So Mr. Ajit Doval, who is there in Moscow, is also scheduled to meet Mr. Putin. All the meetings are expected to happen tomorrow. In between, we are expecting that perhaps Mr. Trump may announce something after Witkoff's meeting with Putin in Moscow.
Thanks, Ghazali, for that. Our next story, right when India and Canada were making an effort to improve strained ties, visuals of an embassy of the Republic of Khalistan on Canadian soil have risked derailing hard-earned diplomatic progress. Radical Sikh groups in British Columbia have established what they describe as the Embassy of the Republic of Khalistan. Photographs show that the self-proclaimed embassy is located inside a section of the Guru Nanak Sikh Gurudwara in Surrey. Bangladesh will hold its first election since its protests toppled its former prime minister next February. The country's interim leader said this on the anniversary of her overthrow. Mohammad Yunus made the announcement at the end of a day of celebrations for what some have called the country's second liberation. Let's listen in to Mohammad Yunus's latest comments and reaction. Former U.S. President Bill Clinton and his wife Hillary are among high-profile figures to be sent legal summons from a congressional committee investigating the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Republican James Comer, chairman of the House Oversight Committee, issued the subpoenas to the other individuals. It's the Clintons as well as 8 other individuals. The committee is seeking information about Epstein's history after President Donald Trump's administration decided against releasing more federal files on Jeffrey Epstein. Jailed former Prime Minister Imran Khan's party on Tuesday claimed that hundreds of its workers and supporters who took to the streets demanding the release of the party founder were arrested by police in Pakistan's Punjab province. The Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf (PTI) supporters began their nationwide campaign demanding the release of Imran Khan, who completed 2 years in jail on August 5th. President Donald Trump said Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is no longer being considered as a replacement for Jerome Powell as Federal Reserve Chair. Trump says he's considering former Fed Governor Kevin Warsh, top White House economist Kevin Hassett, and 2 other people for the position, whom he did not identify yet. Britain said it will begin implementing a deal to return some migrants who arrive on small boats to France within days, a key part of its plans to cut illegal migration after a treaty on the arrangement is ratified on Tuesday. President Volodymyr Zelensky said he discussed sanctions, Russian strikes, and a major drone production deal with U.S. President Donald Trump. Trump has reportedly given Putin until August 8th to make peace or face harsher sanctions, with Ukraine's Zelensky saying Russia is already feeling the pressure. Ukraine has been ready to finalize what Zelensky called one of the strongest drone deals yet, as Kyiv leans more on foreign defense investment. Hiroshima on Wednesday marked the 80th anniversary of the U.S. atomic bombing of the western Japanese city amid growing support of global leaders for nuclear weapons as a deterrence. The bombing of Hiroshima on August 6, 1945, destroyed the city and killed 140,000 people. A second bomb dropped 3 days later on Nagasaki and killed 70,000 people. Japan surrendered on August 15th, ending World War II and Japan's nearly half-century of aggression in Asia. Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba, the city's mayor, and other officials laid flowers at the cenotaph, and dozens of white doves, a symbol of peace, were released after the mayor's speech.
はい、原爆犠牲者を追悼すること、そして核共有を唱える石破が記念式典に来ることに反対すること、記念式典が原爆犠牲者の英霊化のためになることを許さないことっていう訴えをすること、反戦反核を戦ってその戦争突撃と対決する、そのためです。
Hundreds of protesters gathered in Japan's western city Hiroshima on the 80th anniversary of the city's atomic bombing. The protesters called for the abolition of nuclear weapons and an end to wars in front of the atomic bomb dome, as a memorial service took place by the cenotaph on the other side of the Peace Memorial Park. Now, protesters defied local authorities' requests for them to leave the park, and according to the local media reports, one man was arrested in Hiroshima Peace Memorial Park on suspicion of assaulting a security guard. When the Taliban seized power in Afghanistan in 2021, they quickly set about implementing a dizzying array of restrictions for women. No visiting parks or gyms, no eating in restaurants, no working except in very few professions, and no education beyond primary school. When girls banned from high school and universities, many are turning to religious schools known as madrasas instead. The only other option they have is to try to learn online. Like so many other Afghan women, Sodaba could do very little but watch as our country's new Taliban government imposed a stranglehold on women's lives.
The main goal was to try back, give back to the community, especially to the Afghan women, what I had received from the other people, like for free. I think sharing knowledge is something good. I believe this sharing knowledge is what makes a real difference to someone. Like if I learn something and if I don't share it, and then sometimes I pass away and then I get all the knowledge that I have with me to the outer world, okay? And if I share it, it just go and expand, and then there's more people to know things.
India and the Philippines announced an upgraded strategic partnership with particular focus on deepening defense and maritime cooperation as both countries seek to navigate their security concerns due to China's increasing assertiveness in the Indo-Pacific region. The announcement followed talks between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and visiting Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. 13 agreements were signed, including 3 in the defense sector. President Marcos, on a 5-day visit to India, said the two countries have agreed to, and I quote, continue leveling up our collaboration in defense and security. India, he noted, would be the 5th strategic partner of the Philippines. Let's take a look at some of the significant takeaways so far.
Friends by choice, partners by destiny. India and the Philippines' ties have entered a new era, signaling a major diplomatic shift in the Indo-Pacific. Amid China's growing influence in the region, the two countries upgraded ties to a strategic partnership. The goal? To counter Beijing's aggressive tactics in New Delhi and Manila's backyard. On his maiden visit to India, Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. held bilateral talks with Prime Minister Modi and Foreign Minister Jaishankar, inking 9 key pacts. Amid Trump's tariff threats, New Delhi and Manila also launched talks on a bilateral preferential trade agreement.
मजबूत हो रहे रक्षा संबंध गहरे आपसी विश्वास का प्रतीक है। मैरीटाइम नेशंस के रूप में दोनों देशों के बीच मैरीटाइम कोऑपरेशन स्वाभाविक भी है और आवश्यक भी।
Prime Minister Modi and I have committed to bring our collaboration to bear on shared concerns: a free, open, and inclusive Indo-Pacific region, security and rule of law in the maritime commons, supply chain resilience, food security, countering terrorism, and other traditional and non-traditional threats.
Yet, there was more to this visit. India and the Philippines conducted their first joint naval exercises in the South China Sea, with Chinese Navy ships lurking in the shadows. While China accused both countries of undermining regional peace and stability, India made its position clear.
Our position on the South China Sea is clear and consistent. We consider the South China Sea as a part of global commons, and we support freedom of navigation and overflight in the region and legitimate commerce through the waters of the South China Sea.
Both New Delhi and Manila face territorial disputes with Beijing. India has also supplied its BrahMos supersonic cruise missile systems to Philippines and is having talks on submarine infrastructure. As the Indo-Pacific heats up, New Delhi and Manila are charting a new course together. Disha Bagchi for NDTV.